it's important to tap into the mind and the spirit. So, what are we talking about today?
Uh, I think the topic today that we're going to be discussing is meditation and why it's important in order to meditate to be successful in whatever endeavor that you are pursuing,
Pursuing.
pursuing.
Anyways, another episode of Rogue and Unscripted. Oh man, meditation. I feel like it's one of those things that people fear for some reason. Because every time I talk to people about meditation, they're always like, well, I've tried it and it just doesn't work out for me. Like, I can't get my brain to completely shut off. That's what my mom told me the other day. I was talking to her and she's like, well, you should do this type of thing. Maybe, like it's a different type of meditation. We're talking about this thing called ascension, which is like conscious control of your emotions, I guess. And I was like, oh, so it's like a meditation. She's like, no, because when you meditate, you have to do that dumb thing where you turn off your brain, and I can't do that. That's too weird. And I was like, interesting, because there's different ways to meditate.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people start off thinking that meditation has to be done a certain way. And I know from the beginning that's how I was thinking that meditation had to be done a certain way. So you can kind of tend to overthink such a simple thing, such as meditation, which is just being.
Yeah. No, I feel you. And I think for me, I think I'm lucky because I was introduced to meditation at a very young age. I started meditating when I was 7, and it was through my dad. One of those things that I can be grateful for. And the type of meditation that I was introduced to was more so like a prayer type of meditation where we would discuss a topic and then we would meditate on it. So we would go within and see what that topic means to you, and see how your body reacts and see where your mind goes, and just be grateful to be in that space. And that type of prayer, it was also a little bit, I don't say religious per se, but my dad did like participate in self-realization fellowship, which is Yogananda and all of that stuff. It's like I don't say congregation, that's more like church, but something like that, like an organization. Mm-hmm. And so they have a structure, and so that's kind of the structure that I was introduced to.
Yeah.
But not everybody is lucky enough to step into a place where they just teach you the different ways that you can meditate. And I feel like that's where people get confused.
Yeah. I didn't really start off with something like that. Mine was very basic. I just went onto YouTube and
it's all there.
Just researched different methods as to how to meditate, and came across a lot of content because at that time I felt like I was very in my head. I remember I was going through a lot, like it was a breakup actually that I was going through, and a lot of suicidal thoughts at the time, and I really wanted to slow down the moment and analyze it for what it was, and not necessarily run away from what I was going through, but really experience it instead of try to cloud it out with alcohol, smoking, and socializing with other people, because I think it's very easy to get into a form of escapism in a way. So meditation is one of those things where it just naturally allows you to experience things raw and uncut. So when I went on to YouTube, I found out different things such as like breath work, focusing on counting, focusing on the chakra system, different type of methods. And I was just like, whoa, chill out. Which one do I need to do? Mm-hmm. What's the right one? And there is no right or wrong way to meditate. That's Gigi. See the tail going? Oh, there she is. She wants to say hi.
Little kitten.
So there is no right or wrong way to do a meditation. Simply just take action and do it. How I would start off if I was a beginner, I would just start off with 1 minute. Just sitting in a room unbothered, no pets, no disturbances from traffic, noise from other people, your neighbors, roommates, partners, anybody else. Just go to a park where nobody is there in an hour that you've noticed that no one's around, and just stay with your thoughts and notice them while deep breathing and focusing on the breath and just existing for that 1 minute. It all starts with just 1 minute.
Yeah. I think first we should probably just bring up the reasons why meditation is valuable. Because there's, like you said, there's so many ways to meditate, and there's so many reasons why a person would use it, and I think it's really tailored to the goal that people have. The reason why I use meditation for the most part is because there's times where I feel like everything's completely out of my control, and I know that not everything is going to be in my control, but when I meditate, I'm able to really observe things for what they are and not judge, just be. And like you said, just observe. Mm-hmm. Observe how my body feels with specific thoughts. Observe how my breath goes from one rhythm to the next with different thoughts.
Yeah.
Like if you have a decision to make and you need to meditate on it, that's a good way to do it. If you're troubled with something and you really don't know what it's about, like if you feel really anxious or you feel guilty for some reason and you just don't know where it's coming from, that's a really good way to go within and without judgment and very privately. And I think that's what I love the most about it, is that it's so private. You can explore those thoughts and explore those emotions and explore, different perspectives to a problem or an issue. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really beneficial for people to meditate in order to just gain more perspective and gain a little bit more consciousness of yourself and how you're living life, how you want to live life, how you're currently living it, how you've lived it in the past, and just like see the whole picture and like retrieve yourself and retreat, and just kind of be on your own. Like it's really important to gain that solitude, and I feel like that's what people fear the most sometimes is the being alone and being quiet with their thoughts, because some thoughts can be really scary.
Yeah, I do think that it's necessary to be scared sometimes. And a lot of people seek comfort so much to the point where we get so overindulged in what we're thinking of that it's just a blur. And we kind of just are in a derpy state. We're just like, do, all throughout our day to day. From the time that we wake up, it's do, I'm on my phone. And then you sit down on the toilet, you're like, do, and then you go take a shower, do, the whole time throughout going to bed. Not knowing what actually even happened, so much so that you can't even recall what you did through the day. And I've been doing a task where I actually jot down and track everything in my day. That's a whole different topic in itself, but meditating has been able to allow me to compartmentalize and organize my brain, organize my thoughts rather, that I have first thing in the day. And I'm not perfect. I don't meditate every day. However, I've now gained a natural tendency to get angst or get anxious if I do not meditate. And how it helps me is similar to how the gym helps me. If I'm going to the gym, I'm working out my physical body. I'm working out that state of moving and being active. Same thing for meditation, but it's more for moving my mind and moving my thoughts. And if I don't meditate for quite some time, it seems like average about 3 days, I'm going to go apeshit. I'm going to go crazy. Like I'm not going to be the type of person that you want to be around. So, I think a lot of the times people can be, just as they are physically obese, they could be mentally obese by not taking care of their mind and just allowing all that weight, all that clutter just to get like clogged up. And then to the point where they don't know why they're not performing in work, they're not performing in the relationships, they're not performing at the peak that they should be meant to perform at. So, that's one of the main things. This is Sade. That's one of the main things that you should really, really look into. I urge you to, try it just for 1 minute for at least 30 days. I think that should be a challenge for you, especially if you're looking for something to benefit you in a character developing way. try meditation?
Yeah, I think meditation really comes down to one thing, and it's focus. When you're able, because we live in a society where it's just so, everything is so fast paced. Oh, here we go. Everything is so fast paced. We have social media, right? We're scrolling on social media, and we have something new every second. And we have everything in our daily lives. We're running from place to place, work, phone calls, emails, traffic, you name it. And we lose our focus. Like, we are paying way too much attention to everything that we're paying attention to nothing. And when you meditate, you bring focus back to your existence. You're not just going out there and being a machine, you're actually paying attention to who you are as a being.
Mm-hmm.
And it has nothing to do with religion, it has nothing to do with anything. It's just bringing yourself to center and focus and paying attention to the things that you need as a person to thrive. What do you need? Do you need peace? Do you need focus? Do you need breath control? You can even like tailor your meditation to an illness and see where it's coming from, because it is scientifically proven that most illnesses, if not all, come from and stem from a hidden emotion. Emotions that can come from early childhood where we don't even remember we went through something. And so it's really important to dive deep into ourselves and bring our focus and bring our breath and just exist. Just be. And in your purest form, you just are. It's you and your thoughts and your breath. And it's in meditation, all it is a synchronization of your thoughts, your breath, and your focus. And it takes practice. That's why people quit, because the first time you sit down and meditate, you can't bring your focus to where you want it to be. You're like, oh, I'm thinking about all these different things. And that still happens even with practice sometimes. Depends on how cluttered your mind is.
Yeah.
If I don't meditate for a while, that's what's gonna happen. It's like starting from zero. Like when you go to the gym for a really long time and you're making really good progress, and then you fall off and you're like, you don't go for like a month or 2 months because you're like, whatever, and then you have to start all over. And if you're really into fitness, you know that can actually happen after just 1 week. You don't go to the gym for a week and you feel like you're starting over.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
And I mean, for myself, like if I fall off, I don't beat myself up for it, and I think it's easy for people to get into their head. Don't worry about it. If you fall off, you just get back on the bike and keep pedaling. You know, because as long as you're putting one foot in front of the other, no matter the frequency, you're gonna get there to where you aspire to be. So, just take it from myself, where I don't meditate all the time. Like today, I was supposed to meditate. I spend most of my time meditating actually in the sauna. And I'll go over that on a different video on my channel, MAJSAYY, where you can check out my YouTube there, why I meditate in the sauna and why I find it beneficial. But I was supposed to be doing that today, and I just decided, you know what? I feel okay. I feel like if I can just go about the day today, it should be fine. But now I'm going to be implementing visualization, which would be a whole different topic in itself. But that's like, for myself, you have meditation, and then visualization is just like up here in a whole different realm. And meditation can benefit you in all types of ways, whether you like it or not. If it's not for you, it's not for everybody. But for myself and, for Anna, I think it's something that has definitely helped us along our journey of doing things. And if you're wanting to do things that may help you to get there, you can use things such as apps. They have Headspace. They have all types of different apps that can help you meditate. For myself, I don't like apps. I feel like it's a crutch. It's easy to do or to lean on those things that are external to yourself in order to do that activity or habit such as meditation. But if you're beginning, use it as training wheels for sure.
That's what I was gonna say.
You could use it as training wheels.
Yeah, it is good training wheels, especially when you're trying to bring yourself to focus, because like I said, everything is really fast paced. And we need to be able to have those things that allow us to ease into focus without feeling scared of it. Because sometimes you can get really antsy, like you're like, I'm scared of like what is this? It feels so strange, right? Am I doing this right? Whatever. And, you can try meditating for 5 minutes. You can try meditating for 20, an hour. It takes practice, and it takes practice to be there for so long. Some meditations are better than others. They're not created equal. And some meditations, sometimes you only need 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, today I meditated for a solid 30 seconds. And it was an amazing meditation because I was feeling so uneasy today. This morning when I woke up, I had so many, weird emotions clashing and so many things going on that I didn't understand. I didn't know where they were coming from. I thought we had a good morning. I went to the gym and I started feeling this way at the gym and I just couldn't shake it off. And so I was in the middle of working and all of a sudden, I stopped and I was like, okay, I'm going to give myself as long as I need right now to just gather myself. And I closed my laptop and I took a deep breath. I closed my eyes. I put my heart on my hands on my chest because that to me signifies okay, we're going in. And I synchronized my breath, right? Deep breaths in and deep breaths out. And then I was like, okay, I told myself, let's figure this out. Why am I feeling this way? Mm-hmm. And within 30 seconds, and this is, I've been doing this for a long time, but within 30 seconds, I was able to figure out that my inner child was feeling distressed because there's a lot of changes happening in our life right now. And my inner child has been hurt by change so much that every time that I see something transitioning and changing, I start to feel really uneasy and I project that into my outer world. I become really very irritable, impatient, shaky, anxious, insecure, doubtful, fearful, all of these different things.
I love that.
Yeah, and it was really interesting to see that it wasn't me in the present, it was me from the past. It was my little me being afraid and projecting onto my inner reality.
So it's like you're an observer.
Yeah, that's my favorite type of meditation, and it's honestly the one, every time somebody asks me, how should I start meditating, it's the one that I recommend the most. Because it requires pretty much little input and little effort. All you have to do is sit there and observe. See what happens. Okay. If you're going through something, let's say you talked about your breakup. If you're going through a breakup and you feel pain, you just sit there and you just synchronize your breath and you allow all of the memories, all of the painful words that you probably said to each other, all the different things to come up. And you're naturally going to focus on one aspect of it. One word they said, one expression they did, or one memory. You're going to focus on that.
Yeah.
Naturally, your brain's going to go there. And so you're going to allow your brain, it's like you're clicking through the web and you're just allowing things to happen, right? Or when you're on YouTube and you click on random videos or one leads to another and suddenly you're down the rabbit hole. It's kind of like that. And as you're focusing on these different thoughts, you just observe what happens to your body. Do you flinch? Do you tense up? Does your throat close up? Does your chest get tight? Do you start to cry? Do you start to get really anxious? Do you feel warm and fuzzy inside? What happens inside you? And that's a really good way to start practicing that focus and to just allow things to be without your judgment. You don't have to judge whether they're good or bad. You just have to feel it and see it. And then you can start to find the root cause of so many different things that you may be going through. Even if they're not anxious things, but just cause and effect. Oh, this is why this is going on in my life. This is why I've been jumping from job to job to a job and I haven't been able to keep one. It's because deep down inside, I don't feel like I deserve to keep a job or whatever. Hey, kitties, come on. Deep down I don't feel worthy of keeping a job, or I don't feel you know what I mean? So things like that, and you start to realize that the reality that you have is a reality that you've created, and it's only because of you. You start to realize that whatever happened in life is nobody else's fault but your own. And I don't mean to say that it's your fault. It's more so just hey, own it. Take responsibility of your life, of your mistakes, and not even judge them as mistakes. They're just actions that took you down a path. And if you want to change that, then you have to take a different action.
Yeah.
And
And then, to your point about observation, I think it is highly important to be observant in ourselves of being first person, second person, third person in our story of life. Because over time we can get caught up into where we are and be too much in our heads and thinking, for example, if I have a boss and I'm upset and I think this guy is always being an asshole to me, is always wanting to bring up the slightest thing to piss me off or call me out on something, and that's how I perceive it. And I keep replaying that memory of this guy over and over and over and over in my head to the point where I see him, and then I'm like, oh, there he is, boom, already programmed like clockwork into my mind and then into my body is going to respond when I see this guy. Mm-hmm. Until, someday, in some way, maybe he just does something out of the blue that just shifts his whole perspective, or my whole perspective of him. And it doesn't even have to be that way. We can start with ourselves and how I'm perceiving my boss in this example, mm-hmm. And just viewing him in a positive light. Because a lot of people will just take hearsay of people and then they'll pair it with the common trend of what they're hearing from other people and then just believe that narrative. And the reason I'm bringing this whole thing up is because it's easy to get caught up and lost in the sauce, so to speak, if we're just in our own heads and in everyone else's own head and going along with the whole narrative. So that's a way to step away. Meditation is a way to step away from that. Yeah. Just be in timeout for yourself. Just like taking, in a good way, you're putting yourself in timeout. Because timeout's necessary. Maybe that's what they were just teaching us as kids.
And I think that's something that I would love for kids to be taught more, is that type of timeout. Like, hey, you're acting all crazy. Some kids, they lose control at some point. They're feeling too frustrated or too much is going on around them and they don't know how to regulate their emotions. It's a good way to time them out in a way that it's constructive. Like, hey, don't just go there and stare at the corner, but like, hey, let's sit together here. Let's take a deep breaths and figure out why we're feeling this way. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that would build so many more healthy and non-toxic humans if we were all like taught the skill.
Perfect world.
In a perfect world, of course, but like, if you're able to teach your kids how to meditate, I think it's really helpful, because that's something that, like, in my darkest times, that's what I clung to.
Yeah.
It's the one thing that allowed me to make it to the other side,
Yeah, and, to your point, well, I remember you were talking about there's that child portion of you, or that inner child. I was reading this book. It's called Asking Questions a Soundler Way. Mm-hmm. And they mention that there's three types of people, or three versions of ourselves, rather. There's the child, there's the adult, and then there's the parent. Mm-hmm. And when we're meditating and going through basically nothing, there's a whole paradox when we're meditating. We're going through nothing, but we're going through everything at the same time. That is what I love. I love paradoxes. It's just like a whole mind blow for me. And it's just like a whole vortex. Like, I swear one of these days when I meditate, I'm just going to time travel. And anyways, observing that version of myself is just, it's serenity. It's indescribable. Any issues, any problems I'm going through, if I'm pissed off at somebody, I just do a meditation and it's a wrap. It's a wrap.
And that's the most beautiful thing, is that when you meditate, you actually get to pick the story apart and build the version of the story that you want. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And that could be good or that could be bad. That's really up to you and what current state you're in. But for me, for example, that's how I heal from situations that are out of my control. For example, full disclosure, me and my dad didn't have the best relationship. He was half absent, half not. And I grew up with a lot of pain and resentment towards him. And I'm still healing that. But to me, what helps is being able to meditate and observe the whole story of me and my dad. And being able to understand that he was just doing the best he could with what he knew and what he had. He also had a lot of trauma that he didn't know how to manage and handle. And he also had a lot of things that he hasn't been able to face to this day. And I love him for that, because he's human. Mm-hmm. And even though he's hurt me so much, I understand where he's coming from. And I am able to forgive him because I know it's not about me. It has nothing to do with me. He was a hurt child. And he is acting like his inner child is coming out and creating this reality for him where he's hurting people and he's hurting himself still. Because he's still stuck on whatever is hurting him. And a lot of people are in that position too. We blame people for the pain that they cause us, especially parents, especially people that hurt us when we were kids.
Mm-hmm.
And if we change that narrative and we understand that all people are just existing in the best way that they know how, you know, whether they hurt us or not, whether they're evil or not, they're existing in the best way they know how. And if they knew how to do it better, they would.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely think, and to your example with your father, is that he's doing the best that he could. But being from the outside looking in, I would say, reverting it back to the child, parent, and adult, he could have done a meditation where his adult version of himself would take responsibility for what has happened and own it. You know, simply the things that happen when you take ownership of a thing, it just empowers you so much so that you can almost alter like time in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And you just rewrite everything that was going to happen from your past to present to the future.
Yeah, and the thing about that is like you can only go as deep or as high or as profound with your meditation as you allow yourself and as you're ready for. You have to, and like everything in life, you have to push those boundaries in order to grow. There's things that you may not be ready to face now, but you may be ready to face in the future. But you also have to keep conscious that you are going to have to face that at some point. And you have to, on that journey, prepare yourself to get to that point where you can actually sit with yourself and face whatever you want to face.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you know, like with him, yeah, like there's things that he's not ready to face. He must have gone through some really messed up stuff when he was young, and it made him who he is today, for the good and the bad. And he'll grow in ways that he's ready to grow. You know, like, and in ways that his environment allows him to grow. And I can't control that. I can't control how he grows, how he thinks, how he meditates. I can't control how he behaves towards me, but I can control the story that I'm telling, because I used to feel like it was my unworthiness. Like it was my fault that he didn't, you know, love me how I imagined a dad should love a daughter, and he didn't support me the way that I imagined a dad should support a daughter. And right now he's making amends for it, but I used to think that it was my fault. I used to put that blame on me, put that guilt on me. And because of that, so many things happened in my life because I didn't feel worthy of them. So many things didn't happen because I didn't feel worthy. And it was due to those things. And I'm not saying that he said I'm not worthy, but it's the actions that speak and tell you, give you a message. And that's what I internalized. And so as I grow and meditate and use meditation as a tool for my success as a person and as a professional in my career and what I'm doing, I choose now to change the narrative and not necessarily put the blame on anybody, but just understand the situation for what it is. Remove the judgment from it and change it in a way that allows me to move forward and doesn't weigh me down so much. Like I have more control over the story. Because, and that's my favorite thing about like healing, is that healing is all perspective. It's the perspective that you want to give it. And the beautiful thing about perspective is that there's infinite perspectives. And all you have to do is pick one. And I now do this thing where I pick multiple. And I'll stick to one and I'll meditate on it for like months. And I'm like, you know what, I'm ready for a new perspective on this issue. I'm going to go and explore that one. See what that looks like from that angle. Maybe it'll bring me a little bit more insight or more information. And that's the most beautiful journey to me, is to be able to pick up different perspectives, no judgment, just observe it, see what it is, see what I can learn.
Okay, so I wanted to look up meditation and the etymology of the word meditation. Let's see, so the root meaning is med, M-E-D, which means it's a European root for take appropriate measures. And it says, in forms of all or part of, accommodate, accommodation, commode, commodious, commodity, empty, immoderate, immodest, media, medical. So let's see, let's further break it down. So in Sanskrit, it says, in Sanskrit is midir, M-I-D-I-U-R, is I judge and I estimate. In Greek, it means be mindful of, and in Latin, it's meditare, think or reflect or consider, modus, measure, manner. So the reason I look this up is because there's a truth between all the words that we say and all of the words that we choose to put together and formulate sentences. So when we say that we're choosing to meditate or we're choosing to do a thing, that means that we're choosing consciously to go down, consciously and subconsciously, to go down a certain rabbit hole that we may or may not be aware of. So when we do things such as meditate, is basically the same thing. You know, we're consciously choosing to go down the route of this rabbit hole for
Right
one
on.
expectation, and then subconsciously your body's like, here you go, take this. Oh no, take this too. Take this with you. Oh, take this. You know, and then all these different type of downloads from God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, Allah, you know, whatever you believe in, it's coming just out because you're allowing yourself to step out of your own way and allow the message to flow through you. So there's different type of ways that, you know, that your brain can experience these frequencies. So I believe it's in alpha is what the brain vibrates at, or maybe it's theta. I don't know. You can look it up on your own. You, like, not trying to get too scientific, but there's a certain frequency that we get into, which is called a flow state. And athletes do this, artists do this when they're really in the zone. And man, I love it being in the zone. Like when I'm drawing, when I'm doing all these different type of things, it's allowing me to put my brain in that state of almost just like I said before, it's just bliss. It's just life becomes a canvas, and the way that I live my life, I'm like a paintbrush on the canvas, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, I think meditation, just being in that flow state that you mentioned, is healing in itself because it allows you to stop taking in so much information from your environment, and allows your body to kind of like take a breather in a way and just like and just relax, and like it's able to bring attention to different things after that. Like for me, I used it when I was incredibly depressed. And I highly suggest, like, if you're in a good state or if you're in a really, really bad state, meditation is always the answer.
Always.
Because even, like, and I don't want to sound cruel when I say, like, when you meditate and you're, like, in a depressive state where, you know, you're just not okay, right? Like, you can meditate and you can find that the thing that you're really, really stressing about that is making you depressed is not really that big of a deal. And I don't want to say that it's not a big of a deal. I'm just saying, like, I don't want to sound cruel. I'm just saying you can control how you approach things, because bad things happen to a lot of people, and some of those things are horrible. Like, there's horrible things that can happen to you. But the human being was built with such a strength and the capacity to bring itself to light in every state. Doesn't matter how low you are. You can bring yourself to that point, and it's just a matter of wanting to do it at that point. Like, if you know that meditation is going to help you, you know, there's levels to it. And when this is going to get a little bit scientific really quick, but, you know, happiness and love versus depression and anger, vibrationally, they're very different. And anger and depression are very, very low vibrational, and love and bliss and joy and happiness are actually very high. So when you look at it on a scale perspective, if you want to get from the lowest of the low to feeling like super joyful and happy, you're not going to do that overnight. You have to go up the different levels, and you have to give it time. And I think the reason people quit is because they don't see this blissful result right away. Right? And that's just not realistic. You have to bring yourself from the lowest of the low, if that's where you are, to a little bit higher and a little bit higher. And with time, you're going to feel a little bit better and a little bit better, to a point where you're just like, man, I did it. I'm out of that hole. I'm out of that depressive state. And I feel like both you and I have experienced that, where, you know, depression has like really taken over.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to enjoy life being in that state, and you only have very few choices as to how you want to handle your life from that point. And if you choose the route of meditation because you've chosen to take control and you say, no, F you, like, I'm not going to allow myself to go down this road anymore. I'm tired. I'm in pain. I'm angry. I want to get out of this. You have to allow yourself first the time, then the patience, and then the freedom and eliminating judgment from whatever you're feeling, and just go for it. Mm-hmm. Just go and be with your thoughts and feel them and stop trying to run away from them, because that's when it gets real nasty. Like, you have to face the stuff, and meditation allows you to face all of the ugly sides and the beautiful sides that make you who you are.
Yeah.
And so, to me, we don't want to make this podcast too long, but I would say, if you're interested in what meditation is, don't get too caught up on all the different ways you can meditate. There's so many different ways you can meditate. You can meditate laying down, sitting up, standing up. You can meditate, upside down. You can cross your legs. You can stretch your legs. You can play music. You can not play music. You can. That's like extreme, but like potentially, I've seen people do it. But there's so many different ways to do it. The only thing that you have to do though is just try it. You just have to do it.
Yes. You just have to do it.
Yeah, and the first thing that I recommend, because it's so simple, is just sit down and observe. Just be an observant of your life in like third person. Like, just see everything for what it is, without any judgment, without any like if you feel bad about something and you feel like a piece of shit because you did something wrong, just meditate on it and remove the emotion from it. Remove the judgment. Hey, I was a bad person. That's judgment. Remove that and just observe the situation. Observe what's going on in your life. Observe yourself. Even if you're in a really good state, it doesn't matter. Just observe, because, there's always growth. Yeah. Even if you're in a good state, there's always growth, and you can see a direction where you want to go. So, Mm-hmm.
There is a quote that I wanted to look up, but I can't find it. But basically, it's stating that you'll get to a point in your journey that you take so much action that you just kind of get overwhelmed. And the benefit of taking a break is going to be considered taking action. So it's action that you will take from just taking a break. Meaning that it's strategic, right? So let's say, for example, I'm training for a race or something like that, and I'm just going hard. That's not the way to train. There's different aspects of our training. Week 1, we're just getting into it, getting used so we don't break ourselves and break our backs and break our mindset. Week 2, we're going to up the ante a little bit. Week 3, we're going to kill it. And then week 4, we're going to drop off just before the race. And then we'll increase it a little bit so that we build up those our body, our muscles, and our minds. It's similar to what we're doing there. We're not taking crazy action. We're taking a break. We're mellowing out, and we're mediating. We're becoming a medium to something that serves us in our highest capacity at a greater level that we can't even comprehend at that point. Yeah. So, I appreciate y'all watching us today.
Yeah, to finish off, I want to obviously encourage everybody to meditate. We do it, and the greatest people, the greatest minds do it. Anybody can do it. It's really easy. I'm actually I have a playlist on Spotify, so if you want to follow me on Spotify, I can share that playlist with y'all. I'm going to put it in the description so you guys can get into the meditation, into a meditative space. Again, not use it as a crutch, but as training wheels to help you gain that focus. Where can they find you in your videos?
So you could find me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, MAJSAYY. Emphasis on the double Y, not triple Y, not quadruple Y, but 2 Ys, because there are some people that are trying to impersonate. I do not sell crypto or anything like that, so just check me out there. And also check out Anna as well. Yeah. Where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram on inthelife.of.anna. And then this is my YouTube channel. You can also find me here in the Life of Anna for videos about business, career, entrepreneurship, and Rogan Unscripted will be here as well. We'll be here, almost weekly, bi-weekly. We talk as much as we want to. We like to keep it rogue and unscripted. But this is a place you can come for insight. This is a place you can come for, just hear people talk about the things that we experience. We try to get deep in conversation. We don't talk about gossip or tabloids or, anything like that. We talk about what it is to be a human, living a human experience, and living a spiritual experience, and everything that is in between. So check us out next time. We'll see ya.
Sick.